Hello, my name is Dr. Patrick Bernstein, Superintendent of Brook High Schools. Since my arrival in July, 6 weeks ago, we have been spending the majority of my time and the time of our leadership team focusing solely on a safe reopening of schools. Our desire is to provide a seamless experience with quality and with your full confidence. And so we've been dedicating the majority of our time to do just that. My role at Brook is new here, but is not new to the job of being a superintendent. I have been superintendent, and my philosophy in leadership is really to develop the leadership capacity of those around me, immediately the administrators, the teachers, our parents, and quite frankly, our students. I feel, and I've found from my own experiences, that by doing that, that we tend to get better discussion and stronger, richer discussion and better ideas for stronger decisions. And obviously, with the decision as great as reopening schools safely, I want as many participants involved in designing that as possible to represent the interests of everybody and also to do so again in the safest manner possible. So in order to really develop the plan, we've been collaborating not only as a leadership team, but also with our respective professional groups, be that the superintendents of Westchester County and surrounding areas, or the principals with their principal groups, but also with guidance from the CDC, the New York State Department of Health, as well as the New York State Education Guidance, and other groups such as Harvard and the American Academy of Pediatrics. We recognize that as a society, we've been traumatized by the coronavirus. Since March, our normal routines have been disrupted. Our relationships with our friends and our families have been compromised. I'm speaking from my own experiences. I have two parents, both in their 80s. I haven't seen them, and it's difficult for me and it's difficult for them. So I recognize that it's also difficult for you. So coming at this from the point of view that we've all endured some level of trauma, we understand it's really important to deal with the social and emotional dimensions of returning to school. How do we best meet your needs and explain things in a way that makes sense, that you're comfortable, and that's what our aim is to do. I also want to really comment on the fact that safety is truly our main priority. So the idea here is that our safety is interconnected, is quite frankly very physically true as well as emotionally true. So if a student were to become sick, and God forbid that happens, we also recognize that their health and well-being is connected to the health and well-being of the teacher, and then back to the brothers and sisters at home, and the moms and dads, the grandmas. So quite literally, every person's health is interconnected to someone else's. So it is our shared responsibility and our shared commitment to make sure that everyone is safe. And I'm deeply invested in making sure that that happens to the best of our ability. So one of the things I wanted to talk about too is that education is really at its best is nothing more than a network of complex relationships between a student and teacher, parents and teachers, administrators and teachers. And the idea that relationships are based on trust is more important now than ever before. So again, what we want to do is make sure that we're communicating the most clear way and the most open way. And if we don't get a chance to talk about something, you can always follow up with a private conversation. So our K-12 plan has really kept families in mind. And what I mean by that is that families will be in cohorts together so that the students in one household have similar experiences. That makes it easier for our parent partners to plan around the needs of school and their children, as well as their own personal needs. Our cohort model also is based on science. It's based on best practices and medical understanding of the transmission of the disease, because our goal in school is to mitigate any transmission of the disease. And if coronavirus is introduced to our school, we've put into place mechanisms to safely address those and get the students the attention that they need in a way that doesn't expose other students. We've looked at this from 5 major perspectives. One is from an epidemiological perspective or a medical perspective to make sure that we have incorporated the best advice of what we know, how the disease is transmitted. We're very fortunate in our community to have a medical advisory team that is composed of doctors, residents, and they have residents of the district, and they have been advising us, and we've incorporated all of their advice into our plans. Our plan also looks at the lens of logistics. How do we best coordinate this so that the consistency is across the plan, so that our parents can reliably plan around what school is going to entail, whether that's the in-person or the remote sections. We've also looked at this from a communal lens. And quite frankly, I'm very grateful to the community for their generosity in sharing ideas that we've also incorporated into our plan. And of course, we're looking at our planning from a pedagogical or instructional standpoint. We want to make sure that we are delivering a high quality educational learning experience, and that any lessons learned from the past are incorporated in our future approaches. And finally, we're looking at this again as a social emotional lens to make sure that we're addressing the needs. Because if someone is feeling unsafe, they're not likely to be able to learn. And we want to make sure that people are feeling safe. And we also understand that our feelings, our own states of mind, are in some ways communicable as well. So if I'm feeling particularly happy, people around me tend to feel happy. If I'm feeling a little stressed out, people are going to pick up on that. And so my goal, quite frankly, is to make sure that everyone is feeling comfortable and secure and confident with our plans. And that's why we've taken such pains to make sure that we've incorporated people's feedback throughout the process. That's why we did surveys of students, of parents, and that's why we've incorporated a lot of that feedback right into our plan. So although the plan is developed, I would like to share with you that we're also contemplating additions and modifications to that plan, and there'll be more information on that forthcoming. But immediately, we're looking at soft reopening, and what that might entail is opportunities for parents and their sons and daughters to come into school, to meet their teachers, to meet their principals, to walk around the buildings and get a sense and a feel of what it's going to be like. And if that takes a few days to get everybody through safely, and then we start education afterwards, I think that's an investment that's probably well worth it. Again, just to make sure that everyone is very clear on what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. In closing, I'd just like to say that not only is it important that everyone is safe, but also that they feel safe. And I know that a community that pulls together at a time of crisis is a strong community and is likely to become an even stronger community. So I thank you again for your patience, for your understanding, for your contributions, and for your faith in our team to deliver the best product to your sons and your daughters in the safest way possible. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Colin Byrne, the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment for the Blind Brook School District. I'm here to give you an overview of how instruction will work in both the hybrid and remote instruction models. The specifics of instruction will differ between buildings and will be discussed in more detail by the building administration. In either model, students will receive instruction in both their core subjects and in specials classes such as art, music, computers, and physical education. The way that the specials classes run will vary based on the school building. A hybrid model combines in-person and at-home learning. This model allows us to provide in-person learning while maintaining social distancing protocols. In the hybrid model, in-person instruction will look the same as it normally would, just with smaller groups of students. When students are working at home, they will be provided with work that will be a continuation of the learning that went on during in-person sessions. The daily schedule for hybrid learning at each school building has been developed to best meet the needs of the students in that building. Specific details of each building schedule will be discussed by the building principal and can be seen in the district's 2020-2021 reopening plan that is available on the district website. While our plan is to run in the hybrid learning model, there is always the possibility that the district may be forced into the remote instruction model due to an outbreak of COVID-19 in our area. The district has a fully articulated remote instruction plan that preserves many of the elements of the classroom experience as possible. Details of the remote learning plan can also be found in the 2020-2021 reopening plan on the district's website. In either model, there will be consistent live interaction with teachers. Students' learning will be assessed regularly, and timely feedback will be provided. At this time, regular grading policies and procedures will be in place. As it is a New York State requirement, attendance will be reported daily. Processes for reporting attendance will be established at each building. To facilitate learning in either mode, additional programs such as Zoom, Kami, and Screencastify have been purchased for the district. Teachers have been provided access to workshops on instructional techniques for hybrid and remote instruction through our local BOCES, as well as other service providers. Training courses in technology have also been established for teachers during the month of August. Further professional development needs are being discussed. Our overall goal is to provide your children with the best instruction possible while preserving their health and safety. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Ross, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Facilities here at the Blind Brook School District, and today I'm going to discuss three parts of our operation: facilities, transportation, and food service, as we begin to re-enter school next month in September. I'm going to start with facilities. Our plan has been all along to try to do as good a job cleaning as possible using the most state-of-the-art cleaning products. We're fortunate at Blind Brook to do all of our own cleaning. We do not contract out any of the labor, and so therefore we have very good control as to what goes on. We, with our custodians during the day, they are bus driver custodians, but we are bringing on a couple of extra custodians to start the year, and we have our night cleaners. So we anticipate using products that are either CDC or EPA regulated and approved, and these products typically are Clorox wipes and Hydrolite, which we will use with electrostatic sprayers. During the day, we anticipate cleaning or wiping down all of the high-touch areas on an ongoing, frequent basis. In between, at the Ridge Street School, the AM and PM session will be wiping down everything: desks, chairs, all high-touch areas, to the maximum extent that is possible. At the middle and high school, we will do that throughout the day. The cleaning that goes on after lunch, certainly at the middle high school, we'll do the necessary sanitization. There will be no lunch, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Generally speaking, we have construction ongoing at Ridge Street School, but this construction in the new year will be outside. Most all, as we speak today, August 17th, most all inside work at the Ridge Street School is near completion, and we're beginning the process of cleaning and painting and getting ready the school for next month. But once we are done, we will not have any construction inside, any construction workers inside, and we'll be able to maintain the cleanliness better than we have certainly during the past 6 months that we've had construction inside the building going on. Middle and high school, we anticipate that by the end of September, all work should be done on the inside, and we'll just probably be finishing up some punch list items and some site work at that point. So we're in much better shape at the middle high school because of the work was isolated, and we were not doing much infrastructure work on the inside. High school windows in the old portion of the high school, and the fire alarm system notwithstanding. So in terms of facilities, again, we're relying on our own people under the direction of Luis Rodriguez and Luis Greco. I anticipate no problems and a high order of cleaning and sanitization on a daily basis. And if we have to come in on a Saturday to augment the cleaning and do a more deeper cleaning, certainly we will do that as well. Okay, at this point, I'm going to talk about pupil transportation or school bus service. As everybody knows, the district is fortunate to own and operate its own school bus fleet for transporting students to the Ridge Street School, the middle school, and the high school. We do contract out to private parochial and special education schools, and both the Blind Brook school transportation operation and the contract operators are fully aware of what the protocols are to be in terms of riding buses and cleaning buses, and what the schedules are likely to be as we begin the school year for each of the schools. I think what's most important, though, for all faculty, staff, students, while they're in the buildings, and certainly the school bus is an extension of the school building while they're on school buses, is that everybody wears personal protective equipment, PPE. It's critical that everyone wear masks. I would highly encourage, if at all possible, wearing gloves as well. This way, if you're touching something, you're not touching it with your skin or your fingertips. So we are strongly encouraging social distancing. Expect that everybody is maintaining proper social distancing, and again, parents as well, everybody wearing masks at the very minimum, and again, encouraging the wearing of gloves. While you're on the school bus, there'll be one student to a seat. The way we've structured our routes, we'll only be transporting half the number of kids that are eligible and are assigned to that run. And that's every run, both to Ridge Street School and the middle and high school. So with the one child per seat, we are saying we're asking for siblings, brothers, sisters, to sit with one another, therefore freeing up additional space on the bus in the event that we need it. So if there are any issues, certainly you can always email me, jross@blindbrook.org, or Juan Zindon, J-Zindon, J-Z-H-I-N-D-O-N, at blindbrook.org if there are any issues related to the buses that your children are on. And I'll move over now to food service. So we anticipate that at Ridge Street School there will be no food service at all this year, at least for the start of the year. We'll see at what point perhaps the governor and circumstances permit a full-day school. Once that does occur, there'll be some lead time, and Whitson's has promised to get up and running as fast as possible to provide food service as they did last year in the old gym while we're under construction. The middle high school, we anticipate a grab and go pre-order through the Choosy app, pre-ordering, and then there's a prepay that Patty DeLuvio is establishing. We believe that they will be hot and cold. We may initially have to start out with just cold grab and go at the middle and high school. We will be using the pickup window and perhaps one kiosk. But I think generally speaking, while we're not discouraging the purchasing of grab and go food, we are encouraging that children bring their lunch from home maybe the first week or two as we ramp up the services that are provided by Whitson's. So at this point, I've talked about facilities, transportation, and child nutrition, food service. And again, I would encourage anybody with a question to call me or email me. Perhaps email is best, jross@blindbrook.org. Patty DeLuvio, it's P. DeLuvio, DILLUVIO, at blindbrook.org. And again, Juan Zindon, JZHINDON, at blindbrook.org. Thank you for listening, and I wish the best to you and your family and your children especially, and we look forward to seeing them in about 3 weeks.
In the Blind Brook School District, the health and safety of students and faculty is of paramount importance. In accordance with New York State guidelines, the school district will utilize a health screening app to ensure students meet the criteria for safe entry into the building. Each day, we will need your help in the process, as guardians will be required to complete the student health screening prior to the start of the school day. In real time, student statuses will be reported to the school personnel to allow for safe entry into the building. This team effort will help instruction begin in a timely manner each day. Specific app details and process will be shared with guardians prior to the start of the school year.
My name is Harry Berg, and I'm the Director of Pupil Services. I'm here to discuss special education in remote and hybrid learning environments as related to the Blind Brook School's reopening plan. Please know that Blind Brook is committed to providing all mandated services for students with disabilities as per the student's IEP or 504 accommodation plan in a manner that protects the health and safety of students as well as those providing these services. During both remote and hybrid instruction, special education programs and services will be regularly scheduled in all 3 buildings. If not provided in person, special education shall be provided using video conferencing technology to the extent possible. Special education programs and services will also continue to ensure students access to necessary accommodations, modifications, and technology, as well as provide monitoring and communication of student progress. Please know that until schools return to normal operating conditions, the same flexibility with respect to IEP implementation for delivery of equitable services to the extent possible that were established during the previous school closure due to the COVID-19 outbreak continues to apply to programs and services whether delivered in person or remotely, including flexibility with respect to the mode and or manner of delivery of services, group or individual sessions, and the specific group size, frequency, duration, and location of services. Additionally, please know that as per New York State guidance, if the parents or guardians of a student receiving special education services choose not to send their student back for in-person instruction, Blindbrook will provide instruction and special education remotely. In Blindbrook, we've also established that if a student receiving special education services in the hybrid model is recommended for any special class programming or is not making appropriate progress, the district will make efforts to provide as much in-person special education and related service as practicable. If you'd like further information related to special education, please refer to page 16 of the Blindbrook Reopening Plan, the district website, or feel free to reach out to me or Assistant Director Jennifer Herlihy at any time. Thank you, and please take care.
Hello, my name is DJ Goldman, and I am the Director of Physical Education, Health Education, and Interscholastic Athletics. I will begin by addressing some of the re-entry procedures that will be in place at the start of this school year. Each school principal will be able to provide information specific for their school building. Our school district will be securing an online health screening attestation application that must be completed prior to your child being permitted to enter the school building or ride the school bus. A push notification will be sent every morning. You will be able to set your notification preferences to be received via text, email, or both. Each school building will implement strategies for staggered arrival and dismissal times, as well as using multiple entrances and exits for students. When students enter the school building, they must move directly to their first classroom of the day. School lockers will not be used, and hallways will be monitored to encourage constant movement and prevent loitering. Outdoor classes will be used as often as is appropriate. Only touchless water bottle fill stations will be permitted. Finally, bathrooms will be modified to encourage social distancing. For instance, only every other sink will be available for use. Now, I would like to address some of the health and safety procedures that will be in place at the start of the school year. Social distancing will be enforced at all times. Classrooms will be set up in advance to ensure social distancing. Most hallways and staircases will be designated one way with appropriate signage. Any two-way hallways will utilize no walking zones and other signage to promote appropriate social distancing. There will be a Stop the Spread campaign with signage and videos. Some of the topics included in this campaign are using hand sanitizer and cleansing wipes upon entry to a classroom, washing hands anytime they are soiled. Face coverings will be required when social distancing is not possible and at all times during arrival, dismissal, and transition times. And there will be frequent age-appropriate messages about health and hygiene practices. Finally, we must have collective cooperation with all community members to assist in contact tracing efforts. The school district will be assisting the community as it relates to COVID testing. Information can be found in our district plan and is also available from the New York State COVID hotline and the Westchester Department of Health. Tests are also available through private medical providers. At this time, I will address physical education and interscholastic athletics. All physical education classes will be following the guidance released by the CDC, the New York State Department of Health, and the New York State Education Department. As per the current guidance, in-person classes will require 12 feet of social distance while participating in activities that require aerobic activity. Also, any individual equipment that is used will be sanitized after each use. As of Sunday, August 16th, interscholastic athletic activities are scheduled to begin on September 21st. An online registration will open on August 24th via Family ID. Communication from the athletic department can be expected by means of blast email through School Messenger along with updates to the athletics website. Governor Cuomo has not released an updated timeline for a final decision to be made. All athletic activities will comply with guidance released by the National Federation of High Schools, New York State Department of Education, New York State Public High School Athletic Association, and the Section 1 Office of Interscholastic Athletics. Additionally, health and safety measures will be implemented based upon recommendations from the CDC and the New York State Department of Health. Specific information about the Interscholastic Athletic Program can be found on the Blindbrook District website If you have any questions, please send me an email at dgoldman@blindbrook.org.
Hi, my name is Erica Abramson, and I'm a pediatrician at Weill Cornell and a parent of an elementary school child at Ridge Street and a middle school child at Blindbrook. And I'm here today to talk about my role and the role in the community of the Medical Advisory Committee for Blindbrook School District. So for those of you who don't know, the Medical Advisory Committee is a group of volunteers consisting of medical professionals. So we have pediatricians, we have internists, we have emergency medicine physicians, we have dentists who have been partnering with the administration and the board going back to March, trying to look at the best scientific evidence we have about how to guide school planning for the past year and the upcoming year. So a few principles that we have been adhering to as we move through the past few months and coming into the next academic year, which we wanted to share with the community. So the first thing is that what we know about this disease today is changing incredibly rapidly. And so one of the things that we are all learning on this journey is the importance of flexibility. So we look at all the scientific evidence that's out there. We spend lots of time looking through the literature. I'm involved in listservs from physicians around the country who are working with advising schools, and we try to make the best recommendations that we can at the time, but knowing that things can change at any minute. The second principle that we've all been working on is the fact that in order for this next year to be a success, it's critically important that the rates in the community stay low. So it's really everyone's collective responsibility to adhere to all the principles that we are saying, because we know that this disease can really spread rapidly, and that if the community rates start to rise, there's no chance for in-person learning for our children for the next year. And the last thing that we all want to recognize is that this has been an incredibly difficult time for everyone in this community, for parents, for children, for teachers, for administrators, and we know that we're all doing our very best. And so what we need to be doing is to support each other, because what's right for one family and what's right for one child and what's right for one teacher or administrator or staff member may not be right for somebody else, because everyone's circumstance is quite different. In terms of getting children back into the classroom, there are a number of things that we have been working with the school board and the administrators and the teachers on trying to do. So first thing we've spent a lot of time thinking about are the logistics of being in the schoolroom. So to keep everyone as safe as possible, we are asking for universal masking for children. A lot of people have had questions about whether it's safe for everyone to wear masks and what exceptions exist. And I can tell you as a pediatrician that the American Academy of Pediatrics is very clear that for all children over the age of 2, with very, very rare exceptions, everyone should be wearing masks. And those exceptions are very rare things, like somebody is actually unconscious, someone's having acute difficulty breathing in that particular moment, or they're unable physically to remove their mask should it become a hazard to them. Those are really the only exceptions. And it's really important to have children wear masks to keep them safe. Now, we know that this can be hard for children. It can be hard for adults as well. And so we're asking parents to really work to explain to children why it's important that they wear masks to keep everyone safe, and also practice with them at home, especially in the weeks prior to coming to school, in order to help facilitate that when children are in school. We've also spent a lot of time thinking about the physical layout of the buildings. Each one poses different challenges. And so within the buildings, we have gone to cohort models to make sure that children are with the smallest group of children possible, and that within the classrooms, we're maintaining at least a 6-foot radius around children. And so that is going to be true throughout the school. The other thing that we have been thinking about are what are higher and lower risk activities for children. So we know that certain activities such as band, chorus, indoor athletic activities pose a much higher risk of transmission. And so we've thought about what activities within the school can occur when children are there, and what activities should occur for children when they are home. And so those are decisions that have been built into the schedule. We've also paid a lot of attention to things like transportation. So trying to figure out, how do we safely get children to and from school? How do we limit children on the bus? How do we make sure that children are sitting next to their immediate family as opposed to what typically happens on a regular school bus? And also thinking about for more parents who might be driving, how are we going to maximize the entrances for drop off and pickup? And again, this is all with the goal of promoting social distancing. We've also spent a lot of time thinking about, regardless of what the academic year looks like in the upcoming months, about what we need to do to support virtual learning and also facilitate any of the shorter time we have in classrooms. So we're really going to be focusing a lot on promoting social emotional connectedness between teachers and students and other students, which can be a bit more challenging the way that this next year is going to be structured. We're also making sure to pay attention to children who may be more vulnerable in the school. And so that's children with mental health issues, which we know are rapidly emerging in the time of COVID due to social isolation, anxiety. Children may have lost loved ones or other people close to them. We know that families are under extraordinary stress from losing jobs, again, losing families. Tensions at home can be higher. And so we have to make sure that we're reaching out to families and students, and also think about students who have learning disabilities or learning difficulties, in which virtual learning and some of the changes can be particularly hard. So we spent a lot of time, again, working with the administration and advising them on suggestions to how to help make sure that all these resources and groups are paid attention to. We have not yet gotten into things like athletics, but that will be something that I know parents have asked about. And certainly in the weeks to come, we'll be thinking about how and what and if things can be done safely, because we know that sports and other kinds of things are actually really critically important for the development of children. So I hope that allays your concerns that at least there is a group of us who are really working very, very hard and partnering with the board and partnering with the teachers and partnering with the students and trying to give the best advice based on the best medical knowledge that we have. The only other thing I would like to say is that this year, more than ever, it's going to be really, really important that if your child has any medical symptoms, runny nose, cough, things that don't involve fevers where we typically would have sent them to school in years past, it's absolutely essential that children and teachers and staff stay home. We can't really take any chances. And until there's more robust testing infrastructure across this country, we all have to err on the side of caution to keep everyone safe. So thank you, and here's hoping to a great next year.
Hey, hello everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Jennifer Churls. I am the principal of Blind Brook High School. I'm here with Mr. Greenwald, the assistant principal, and we're going to go through a short PowerPoint of some topics that we think are really important for you to know, some facts. And then after that, we're going to give you a little tour of what the school is going to look like with our unidirectional hallways, the check-ins at the beginning of the day, what a classroom looks like when you remove some desks in it, and we'll do some Q&A. And then we've been receiving your questions all week, and we'll go through those questions as well. So some of the questions we go through in the video, and then we have additional questions that have come in since we've recorded the video, and we'll address those too. So if there are any questions that you have, we don't have a chat feature on here for you to send in a question. So you'd have to use the link that came with your email about the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen, so wish me luck. Okay, and am I good, Mr. Greenwald? Give me a thumbs up if I'm good. All right, so here is our reopening plan. So we are broken down into a couple different categories: health and safety, the remote plan, the hybrid plan, our reentry into the school building, and then our time for questions. So with regards to health and safety, everyone's going to have to complete the daily health attestation, which is going to be an app as it was described before. You'll get emails and reminders and text messages about it, so that way you know to do that before kids come into school. We're going to have people at the door assuring that students are safe to come in. If for some reason a student doesn't have it completed, they're going to have to go to the isolation room, where we're going to have to either screen them or send them home. We also are going to limit the visitor access to the building because we can't have too many people on campus. So if there is a visitor, we'll also have to screen them prior to entering the building. We're going to have building entries are going to be very specific. So adults are going to enter in through the main entrance, and students are going to enter in through assigned doors, which we're going to display in a minute. We're going to have hand sanitizing stations, tissues, trash cans, everything available. And once students enter into class, they're going to go straight to their first block. They're not going to be allowed to hang out in the commons or wander around the school. They have to come into school and go straight to their first period class, first block class. And we're not going to allow students in the building until 7:40, and first block will start at 7:50. So as you can see here, grade 9 will enter in through the front door. Grades 10 and 11 will go in through the auditorium doors. And grade 12 will enter in through the portable. So this will allow students to be distributed throughout the campus, so we don't have any bottlenecking in the hallways. In addition, when students and staff come into school, they all must wear a face covering. We would suggest a mask that covers tightly over their nose and mouth. We do not really suggest bandanas and scarves, as they may not have the appropriate protection and layers of material that will protect both the students and the staff in the building. So we expect students to bring a mask with them. If for some reason something gets lost or they get broken or they forget it, we will have disposable masks available in classrooms and also at the school building. We also will allow students to go outside for lunch. They can take their mask off when they're eating. We're going to allow them to eat, as long as they're maintaining social distancing, they can eat outside, inside with their masks off. We also will have additional PPE for other staff members like our nurses, and we also are going to have healthy hygiene practices throughout the building. So we're going to increase our signage in hallways, classrooms. We're going to make sure that we have hand sanitizer, tissues, disposable gloves, Lysol Clorox wipes, everything will be in the classroom. Teachers are going to review and reinforce these hygiene practices in addition to our nursing staff. We want to make sure that nobody's sharing any materials or supplies. So we're going to have the students, they're going to have to bring in, if they need any supplies, they have to remember to bring it in, whether it's a calculator, pen, pencil, they're going to have everything themselves. If there is, for some reason, any equipment that's used, it will have to be sanitized before use and after the use. In the classroom, and you'll see this when we do the walk around video, the students will have assigned seats and they'll stay in those seats each time. So our classrooms are going to be set up. We're removing desks to make sure that there's 6 feet of space per person. In music and PE classes, we're setting it up so that way there's 12 feet radius per person. And we're also going to have markings on the grounds and hallways just to make sure students remember to maintain their distance between each other. We also are not going to allow lockers to be used. We don't want students congregating around the lockers or standing really close to each other using the lockers. So students are going to have to use bags that will hold backpacks and books and also their lunch all in one bag. We're going to try to use as many outdoor areas as possible so that way we can increase our social distancing between each other, but also being outdoors is better for the spread of the virus. Or actually, not as good for the spread of the virus, but better for us. We're going to decrease our occupancy in bathrooms, use unidirectional hallways, and also in between classes, we're going to have staggered passing times. So we're also going to make sure that all of our doorways are propped open, as many as we can. It'll help that way we have less contact of touching different high contact spaces. We also have reviewed and made sure that all of our air filtration systems have been updated. So all of our filters are MERV 13, which is the highest rated filter available. As Mr. Golden mentioned, our drinking water fountains are going to be disabled, so we will have bottle refill stations. So in addition to bringing everything else, make sure that they bring a bottle, because again, there's no sharing of materials or anything. And we're also going to continue to have our drills. I know there was a question by one of the parents about what drills will look like. So what we're planning on is for a lockdown drill, students will be sitting in their desks and we'll explain the drill to them. And then if it was an actual emergency, you would address the most urgent or immediate threat, which means that you would have to break social distancing and gather together, because the most immediate threat would there be right in front of you as opposed to the virus. So we have our remote plan and our hybrid learning plan. Both plans were developed with a set of core principles. And those core principles were discussed amongst myself, Mr. Greenwald, and all of the administrators. And there are things that, these are things that we wanted to make sure no matter what modality of instruction we have, that these are going to be really important. And one of them is that there was live interaction. And if we can't have live interaction, that things would be recorded for students who are absent. We wanted to make sure that no matter what kind of mode of instruction we're in, that there's going to be a variety of instructional strategies, lots of collaboration, lots of interaction. We really want to make it a very dynamic learning environment. We want to have opportunities for students to interact and collaborate, not only with the teacher, but with each other. We wanted to assure that our special education students would get their supports and our students with 504 plans would get their accommodations. We wanted to make sure that whatever students do, that they receive feedback on it, on their assignments and their classwork, and that we can use that feedback as a tool for instruction, so students can use it as a tool for themselves and teachers can use it as a tool to guide their lessons. We wanted to make sure that any assessments that we give, whether they're formative or summative, are deliberate and meaningful, have value, have reliability. We want to make sure we use a variety of assessment methods so way students can show the mastery of their learning standards, which is going to be really important since some students will be in class, some students will be at home. There's going to be students in all different scenarios, and we want to make sure that our assessment is one that really represents their knowledge of what's being taught. Some other core principles we have are about, our interactions with parents and students with regards to communication. So we really want to make sure that we're in ongoing communication with parents and students. So one way we can do that is assuring that our Google Classroom is a common platform, not just at the high school, but across the district. So students could always go into their Google Classrooms. That's where they're going to look for their information from their teachers every day. And we also are going to have a common platform for meetings, which would be Zoom. We also are going to focus a lot on student well-being and connections this year. One of the things that we lost is the ability to be together in person. So hopefully, we'll have our hybrid on September 21st and we'll be able to have students in the building, and I'm really excited about that. That'll help us build connection. But in addition, while we're in remote mode, we also want to make sure that through that online platform that we're also dealing with student well-being, that we're building connections between students and between teacher and students. We also want to make sure that whatever communication we have and our educational expectations are given from the nurses, that they're reinforced in class by the teachers. So everyone's getting the same message and is being consistent throughout the day. So one thing that's a little different from our original plan that we had posted online, and the online plan has been updated to reflect this, is that we're going to have the same schedule for both remote learning and hybrid learning. So it's going to start at 7:50 in the morning, and in between each period will be 10 minutes. It's good for when you're at home doing remote learning. It gives you time in between to kind of reset from one class to another. It gives you time to go to the bathroom, grab a bite to eat, get some fresh air. And in the building, it'll give us time to transition from period to period. So we can do some staggered dismissals from classes and make sure that our hallways aren't crowded. We have a lunch break in both scenarios. It's a nice length. So students will have the opportunity to get some extra help during that time, Zoom with a teacher, chat with each other, have some lunch, get a nice mental, physical break, and then start it up again. So when we're in remote learning, there'll be no students in the building. Every hour on the hour will be live, 15 minutes of synchronous classes. 15 minutes of it, minimum, has to be live interactive instruction. That doesn't mean that the class is only 15 minutes long. It just means that there's going to be a 15 minutes of teacher and student interaction. The teacher may then decide, okay, some of you are going to go into a breakout room, somebody else is going to do some independent learning, and they'll use their toolbox in order to figure out how they want to structure their lessons. But we really want to make sure there's that person-to-person, online, I see you, you see me, we're talking part that's at least 15 minutes. There'll also be homework and additional work, so that can be assigned by the teacher, and that'll happen in that lesson also. So we have some student expectations that students will attend all scheduled classes. Attendance counts. We really want to make sure that they're there and they're showing up. We want to make sure that they have enough time to log in, get all their technological issues out of the way. So we suggest that they log in 5 minutes prior to start, that all students follow teacher directions and expectations, that they learn the tools that are in Zoom, so that way when they're doing their Zoom lessons or if they're using their Google Classroom, that they're utilizing the tools appropriately. We also want to make sure that we're prohibiting students from recording any live lessons. The teacher may record a lesson or a part of a lesson, but we do not want students recording it using a phone or trying to record the lesson any other way. We also want to set an expectation that students will attend extra help and that they will advocate if they need assistance. So if they need student-teacher conferences, if they need to attend anything, if the teacher's telling them, I want you to show up for extra help, I want to help you with something, that the student doesn't. There's some expectations for you parents out there. We want to make sure that you also have some expectations. We want to make sure that you notify us if you have any questions, concerns, or restrictions with your student, with learning at home. Reach out to myself, Mr. Greenwald, the school counselors, the teachers. We're all here to support you and to support your children as we go through this process. So part of that is making sure that you notify us if you have any concerns or things just don't feel right. Make sure that your child attends all classes as assigned. So since we are going to be taking attendance, if we see anything, we'll be reaching out. But we really want to make sure that if you can kind of help us with that on your end, that would be great. Notify the school if for some reason your child can't attend. If there's an illness, a technological issue, anything else, you can email us at hsattendance@blindbrook.org. We will be scheduling pickup of school issued materials. So we're going to need your help in getting those to you so that way you have them when we're doing the remote learning. And lastly, we really hope that you would honor our classroom confidentiality. If your student is getting counseling, if any confidentiality in that, our basic social norms, whatever happens in the classroom, if we can just protect the students that are there, that would be helpful. For our teachers, we have some expectations for them. So we want them to design the lessons with that 15 minutes that I mentioned before. It could have instruction, small group independent work, large group independent work, formative assessment, summative assessment, all different types of things. We want the Google Classroom to link to a Zoom session. We want to have the Google Classroom have all the classroom materials and resources posted in a nice and organized way that's not too overwhelming. The teacher will be on camera and take attendance, notify parents if there's any questions about attendance or schoolwork, and record the Zoom lessons in case students are sick or unable to attend. In our hybrid learning model, again, we're going to have the same schedule as before, so I just put it right there just to reinforce that we're having the same schedule. Now, what's different in this one is that at home, you'll have one group learning at home while another group is learning at school. On Wednesday, the whole class is together, all learning remotely. And then on Thursday, it flip-flops where one group will learn at home and the second group will learn in school. So learning in school can be any number of things. We want to focus on skill acquisition and development. So really use that time while the teacher's with the student so they can build that relationship together and the student has an opportunity to really sit with their teacher, ask the questions that they're struggling with, really get to the meat of what they are learning and what their problems are, making sure they can clarify those things. In addition, using that time where you are live in person to do activities that you can't do remotely. Maybe it's doing a lesson, maybe it's having a classroom discussion. Maybe you're conferring with a kid and showing them something or creating some art. So all those things that you may not be able to fully do when we're remotely, that's what we want to really hone in on our learning in school days to really make them vibrant and special because it's something that we lost last year. And now that we get it back again, we really want to make it something that's really stand out. On Wednesdays, we're going to have remote synchronous whole class instruction, just like our remote instruction that we're going to start off with at the beginning of the year. So we're going to go back to that everyone's online at the same time, logging in on the hour, every hour on the hour. For students that are learning at home, it is going to be asynchronous during the hybrid model. So they're going to see what the teachers posted, they're going to work on it. They may have an opportunity because teachers do have office hours. So they may have an opportunity to Zoom with their teacher, ask questions that way. Whether it's during the lunch break or maybe at the end of the 6th block, at the end of the day. So there will be time for the teacher and the student to engage, if they reach out to when the teacher's office hours are. We also suggested that students follow the schedule. So since they're learning at home, they're gonna have to do some independent work and they're gonna have to develop their own work model of how they're gonna work at home. So what we're suggesting is every hour on the hour, go to those classes as they normally would, work through the schedule, work on their tasks, and that'll help them stay on track. No matter what happens in either mode, especially if they're learning at home, make sure that they ask for help. Students ask for help if you need help, advocate, reach out, we're here to help. We're going to have a little quick video about how we go around the building for the day, and then Mr. Greenwalds and I did a little TV show Q&A. It kind of looks like we're in a morning show, I think, but hopefully you'll enjoy that, and then we'll come back and do some live questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Charles. Welcome to Brook High School. I'm here with Mr. Greenwald.
Hello everyone.
And we're going to walk you through what it's going to look like this year at the high school. Before we begin the tour of the high school, we want to start off with the first thing you're going to do when you wake up in the morning is your parents are going to check you out and make sure that you're okay to come to school and safe to come in. So they're going to go onto the app and they're going to sign that you're okay to come in. Make sure that you have that done or else you're not going to be allowed into school that day. Once you come in, if you're in 9th grade, you're going to come right in through the front doors. 10th and 11th grade are going to go in through the auditorium, and 12th graders are going to go into the door by the portables. And then you're going to go right to your first period class right after that. Okay, once you're on campus, you're going to make sure that you have your phone with the app on it. So the app, you should have had your parents sign the attestation at home saying that you're safe to come into school. You're going to go to the door, make sure your mask is on. Well, there we go. And then you're going to show them either the phone or they'll have a list for you to check off that you've filled out the attestation. If not, you're going to have to go into the quarantine room until we wait for your parents to come pick you up. Okay, so once you check in, you're going to go straight to your first block class. So here I am in Mrs. Zoll's room, which is a typical classroom, typical size for our building. We have 18 desks in here. They're all socially distanced apart. You're gonna be in the classroom with your mask on, sitting in your assigned seat, and maintaining that social distance between each other. You'll then make sure you go to the next class following the one-way hallways and continue that pattern until you get to lunch. Lunch is gonna look a little differently this year. We're gonna have individual desks instead of group tables. You can order lunch, you can pre-buy, or you can grab and go. You can eat in the commons, the middle school cafeteria, or outside. You can take off your masks as long as you maintain social distancing in any of those areas. Lockers won't be available, so make sure whatever bag you have, you can fit your lunch and any books that you need in there. If you're not feeling well and you may have symptoms of COVID, then you're gonna come to the writing center, which we're gonna use as a quarantine room. You're not gonna go to the nurse's office. Someone will be staffed here that will get the nurse, and the nurse will come to you. Then we'll call your parents and have you sent home. If you have a headache or a bruise and you need a Band-Aid, things of that nature, you can go to the nurse's office. If you need to take your medication that the nurse administers to you, you can do that too at the nurse's office. So this room is only going to be used for people that have symptoms of COVID that we want to quarantine. Okay, so I'm here with Mr. Greenwald. We're going to field some of the questions that you've submitted.
Okay, so in no order of importance, first question, Dr. Charles, will clubs exist this year?
So we're going to have a limited number of clubs that will start at the beginning of the year, and we're going to reevaluate as the year goes on. Any clubs that we do have will have to be virtual from the time being.
Another question, popular, how do I see my guidance counselor or social worker or psychologist or any really staff member that has their own individual office?
We're going to try to use scheduling through Google Calendar so you can make an appointment with anybody that you need to see. If it's an emergency, however, please let us know that it is an emergency and then we'll address it at that time.
Next question has to do with community service. Do we have to do our required 80 hours of community service?
So what I want to do is take this as an opportunity to think about what community service is and what does it mean to us as a community. So we're going to be rolling out some new requirements for community service that will supplement the 80 hours and give people some options, because the traditional service avenues aren't available right now for a lot of people. People aren't able to go volunteer where they used to be. Organizations are not allowing people into their operations. So we're going to have some new things that will be sent out, so look forward to that soon.
Next question, what will in-school days look like?
So in-school days can look like any number of things. A lesson has direct instruction, guided practice, independent practice, classroom discussion, presentations, group work. Any of those things can be done during the in-school days. So in order to make sure that the students that are at home are not disadvantaged, that new learning will always be available to students that are at home. It may not be live, it may be a recorded lesson, it may be a pre-recorded lesson, it may be something that was found online, but there will be new learning available to students no matter what avenue they're in at that day.
Next question. How will I get extra help?
You get extra help the same way you always get extra help. Your teachers will have office hours, and you can go see them during the office hours. That might be Zoom office hours. That way, if you're at home, you can Zoom into your teacher. It may be office hours during lunch periods where you can go in and see them in person. It really depends on where you are that day during school and how your teacher has structured their office support.
Next question. Can my child take pictures of other students who are not wearing their masks?
Ooh. So the first thing you should do is if you see someone without wearing a mask, you should tell an adult, and that adult can address it. That's the most important thing, is the immediate safety and security of people in the building. Beyond that, taking pictures or videos of people without their consent, especially minors, is an invasion of privacy. So it goes into our code of conduct and our privacy policy and our technology policy that we have. So everything will be addressed on an individual basis, but what we'd really encourage you to do is tell a teacher, tell a staff member, tell me or Mr. Greenwald, and we'll address it with the student that's not wearing their mask.
We've had a couple of parents ask the question, is school still doing the block schedule that was instituted last year?
We are still doing the block schedule. The schedule is going to look different this year because we're going to have staggered passing times, which means we're going to have an increased passing time between each period to allow for classes to get dismissed and lunch to get dismissed at different times. We're also going to have waves during lunch, so 9th and 10th graders are going to eat during one lunch wave, 11th and 12th graders are going to eat in another lunch wave, and that'll help us minimize the number of people in common areas like hallways, commons, anywhere that people might be crossing each other. We really want to minimize that, so we're going to try to keep their classroom time as much as possible intact, but then increase the amount of time in between periods.
Some parents had a question from the learning plan about learning in school days, and the question was, what does it mean that learning in school days will not focus on content?
Our classes always focus on content, so what we want to do is try to make sure that whatever new learning happens in school, the same new learning is given to students that are outside of school. But there'll always be content there. That's what we do here.
Next question. Will learning at home days have live instruction?
As of right now, learning at home days won't have live direct instruction because the teachers will be addressing the social emotional needs of the students that are in the classroom at that time. As we move forward and we learn more about our technology limits and what we can do, there may be opportunities for us to explore having live demonstrations or having an opportunity for a student to maybe Zoom with a teacher during a free period or during extra help. But again, we're going to try to make sure we do this and have the strongest remote learning opportunity that we have available, and also the strongest hybrid learning we have available, and the strongest in-person learning that we have available. So we're going to be focusing on really making sure that whatever method that we have, that it has integrity, that it has quality, and it has the expertise of the teacher helping us guide that learning process.
Another question that came in from a few parents, what will chorus and band look like this year?
So chorus and band are going to look different. Your at-home time is going to be most of the time where you're going to be playing and singing. In school, we're not going to be allowed to sing or play instruments. So what we're going to have to do is come up with other ways in order to explore chorus and bands in new ways. So that might be doing critiques of videos that maybe we record. It may have to do with humming, clapping along, using hand signals, reading music, doing some music theory. There's lots to do within band and chorus that are not only performance-based. So we're going to explore all of those areas. The similar ways that we're going to explore other areas of physical education. It's not necessarily competitive recreational sports or team games. We might explore more personal fitness, health and wellness. We're going to try to see what other opportunities we have within the structure in order to explore the different ways we can engage in those activities, such as band, chorus, PE, anything that has those bigger groups.
Another question came in from a number of seniors, and they had asked, will they be able to leave school during their free periods and lunch periods?
No, I'm really sorry. I really wanted to. Mr. Greenwald and I were hoping that was the case, but in order to maintain the safety and security of everyone that's here, we can't have an open campus this year, at least until further notice. If things change and we are able to open the campus during the school day, we will. But as of right now, we're going to have all the seniors in the building the whole day. But that means that you can still eat outside. We will still try to have some classes outside. We'll try to get outside as much as possible, but you're going to have to stay in the building. Sorry. So if you have any other questions, please reach out to me. My email is jchirles@blindbrook.org. So that's CHIRLES, rhymes with girls, @blindbrook.org. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
And you can reach out to me as well, mgreenwald@blindbrook.org.
And we're back. So
Hey.
exciting.
So we're going to now move into the live Q&A section. Before we do, if you'll indulge me just for a minute, I wanted to just share with everyone, with our 189 attendees this evening, and thank you for all being here. We appreciate partnering in this with you, and we appreciate your help. I just wanted to let you know, this morning, Dr. Charles and I hosted a very successful 9th grade orientation for about 20 ninth graders, very socially distant, in our auditorium, and it was a great success. They were a great bunch of kids, and they got a good dose of what it's going to be like entering the school and making sure that you have all your things signed off on and parent checks. So parents of ninth graders, if your children are coming into orientation tomorrow and Monday, please make sure that you're signing off on those documents as well. Before we get to the first live question, I also wanted to mention the video that we had just shot was shot on Monday, and we were trying to address a number of the questions that had come in at that time. So what we're going to try to do this evening is now ramp up the questions. Basically, up until about 10 minutes ago, I've been adding questions onto our list. So I've made categories, and if you don't hear your question asked in exactly the way you worded it, please know that I've tried to put it into a category. And if we cannot get to your answer or do not get to your answer, please reach out to us, and we're happy to spend any time with you that you need. So we're going to jump right in. So probably the biggest category of questions that we had amongst many high school parents was remote learning. And the first question that came up from quite a few people was, will remote learning be available if there is a specific health issue, or will it be a choice if the family feels uncomfortable having their child return to school?
So we do have a form that if people are interested in doing remote learning, it's on the Blindbrook Reopening Plan website. Please, if you're thinking about doing remote learning and you are concerned, especially about your child's health or your health of your family, you have a particular issue, there is a form available. If you could fill it out as soon as possible, today, tomorrow, Monday, it'll help us help you, because then we can plan out the rest of our school year. Colin, would you like to add something to that?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Charles. I just wanted to reiterate what you said. Yes, there is a form. It is on that the page, the reopening page. It does talk about students at high risk, but if you are considering remote learning for any reason, when you go through the choices of the reasons why, there is an other option. So you can always select that if there isn't a specific health reason, but you are considering it or want to be considered. Please, and the sooner the better. If you can do it tonight, tomorrow night, tomorrow day, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, we want to plan. We want to plan the best year we can for everyone. So the sooner we get that information, the more we can plan for you, the longer time we have to plan for you. And that's really our goal. We know that, if students are remote, and while other students are hybrid, there will be the teacher of record will be the teacher that will be providing the remote instruction as of right now. So if you had physics, your physics teacher that would have been your hybrid teacher will be the same physics teacher that you'll have for remote. So the teacher will have to adjust and figure out, as they always do, ways to teach students in all different scenarios. So if we have students that are remote, we will make sure they get the information, and just like the students that are in the hybrid mode will get the information. So it's being flexible during that whole process is what we're going to pretty much everyone's going to have to do. Mr.
Thank you,
Greenwald?
Dr. Byrne, for helping. And there will be others during the course of our Q&A that will jump in based on their area of expertise. And if you didn't catch the subtext of that last point made by both people, please let us know as soon as possible if you are contemplating remote instruction only. Second question in this category, is there a remote learning only option? If we choose it, can a child re-enter school at a later date if things look like they're going well?
So we haven't set any boundaries on the remote only option, what that will entail, but what we would like you to consider is the teacher's planning and what they have to do to plan for students that are remote, students that are hybrid. It wouldn't be reasonable to expect that, you know, some days students will come in and then drop out or come back again. So we want to make sure that we do this in a very planful way. And that's why the more you, the earlier you can get us that information about what you're thinking, the more we can plan. And then we'll communicate out as the year goes on what any reentry plan would look like. And I'm sure it would be for multiple students that would be interested in reentering if things are looking better, which I hope they will.
Okay. We are still, folks, in the category of remote learning. Can you be 100% virtual? If so, how will that work, especially with classes that have required lab hours and exams?
So we're going to have to be creative with all of our lab hours. You know, we're going to start off the year remote. We're probably going to have to do some labs there. We're going to have to use some lab simulations. We might have to do some live streaming of labs or pre-recorded labs that students will watch, maybe to do some replications of some of those activities at home. You know, we have very talented staff, very knowledgeable staff, and very creative. Thinking of ways that they can take whatever they would typically do in the classroom and how that would translate to someone that's at home, whether it's being fully remote or certain students are remote and certain students aren't. They did it past in the spring, so I'm sure that they'll probably be translating some of those strategies that they used in the spring to this year.
Good. Next question. Do the students have to check in for each class during the day, during the remote learning days, or will the work be posted in the mornings for them to be completed at their own pace?
So as of right now, you know, we're going to post them for students to work at their own pace, but the teacher may have check-ins that they'd want to do with the students. So the students, that's why I was suggesting before that the students every hour that they have a class, go into that class and see what's required, because they might have an appointment with a teacher or the teacher might want to meet with them. Depending on what's happening that day.
Okay. If a child chooses remote learning, will he or she be receiving less actual teaching, direct instruction, than a child that comes in twice a week?
They'll be receiving less live instruction. They still will have access to teacher during office hours. They'll still have those recorded videos. We're going to work on doing, like, increasing any sort of live streaming of or synchronous Zooming of calls or Zooming of students in the classroom. But we're going to, they will have less one-on-one or small group instruction with the teacher because they won't be in class.
To close out the remote category, if fully remote is an option, would the student be taught by the same teacher and on the same timeline as the hybrid students?
Yes.
Good answer. Okay.
That was actually an easy one. It sounded really bad, but it really wasn't so bad. Okay, hit me with another one, Mr. Greenwald.
I'm trying to set you up. We're gonna jump to the next category called health and safety, and Mr. Goldman, we're going to ask you to jump in if you are so inclined.
I feel like phone a friend, Mr. Greenwald. I'm like phoning Mr. Goldman.
Hello, friend. Next question, Mr. Goldman, if you can. What are mask breaks? When will they be done?
So mask breaks are really going to be something that, you know, as we continue to go through the learning within classrooms, they could, you know, change over time. I think, you know, especially early on, we definitely want to be more conservative, only to make sure that we maintain the safety of all people who are within the classrooms. One example that I think would be very popular is a situation where the entire class is seated with masks on, and one student will be permitted to remove the mask while seated at his or her desk. The other students will continue to contribute to normal classroom discussion for a short period of time. Then the student that was on the break would put the mask back on, and then another student could take the break. So this way, the one student, anytime they have the mask off, they won't contribute to classroom discussion. They'll take a full mask break, and then they'll put the mask back on, and there'll be somebody else's turn.
Great. Thank you. Another question, Mr. Goldman. This was really addressed, I think, in the PowerPoint, but I think it bears a little bit of reiteration. Will the types of masks that are acceptable be specifically stated? Example, no gaiters, masks with valves. Will students be dismissed from class or school if they do not comply or do not consistently wear the mask over their mouth?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that we do need to make sure that the facial coverings are on at all times, other than, like we just described, a mask break, or when someone is eating. Appropriate facial coverings, and I know that we've been working with Dr. Abramson in the medical advisory committee. Appropriate facial coverings are ones that have multiple layers of fabric. They cover your nose and mouth. They do not have valves, and they fit appropriately and securely. So any student who's attempting to enter the building without an appropriate facial covering, we have them in stock. We'll be able to issue them prior to anyone entering the building. Anyone in need at any time will be able to have access. As Dr. Charles mentioned earlier, we'll also have them in the classrooms just in case something breaks or rips or any other kind of circumstance where it may get dirty. As we said earlier, neck gaiters, bandanas are not acceptable because they really are only one layer of fabric. And also facial covering protocol, to help answer the question about enforcement. It's going to be enforced by anyone within the school community. And there will be signage reminding students to wear their face coverings as well. Parents will be contacted if students do not follow the protocol. And if there are repeated occurrences, then we're going to have to take a look at implementing consequences that would appropriately be outlined in the family guidebook or even the district code of conduct.
Thank you. The next question is COVID related. It's really a two-part. I think the first part might be for Dr. Charles and the second part for Mr. Goldman. The first question is, what is the school's plan when and if a teacher becomes sick? So Dr. Charles, you want to take that one?
So I'm guessing sick with like test positive for COVID or something like that, because people get sick all the time. And so if a teacher is out and we need to use a substitute, we will. If a teacher has tested positive for COVID, we would follow our protocol, which is also posted on our reentry plan website. And it really outlines, if someone's tested positive, if someone's quarantined, and the stages that we go through. So we'd work with Dr. Byrne, who's our COVID coordinator, and he would work with the Department of Health, and we do some contact tracing and follow their guidance as to what our next steps are. With regards to the student in the classroom, if a teacher is at home and quarantined, we'll work with the teacher, we'll work with the class to either have a substitute in there or get the work from the teacher. If the teacher's remote and can still work, we might be able to work something out where the teacher can still post the assignments and information.
Thank you. Mr. Goldman, was there anything to add in terms of, there was a question also, I guess the second part of that was, if a student becomes sick with COVID, will the whole school close?
Yeah, so it's definitely a different ball of wax once we have a positive COVID. So if there are positive COVID tests, the quarantining or closing of schools will be determined by the school district, but it will be in conjunction with the Department of Health's findings, because they're the ones who really follow through with the contact tracing, communication, and all those kind of things. According to current thresholds, and again, this is as of today, the Department of Health indicates that schools will remain open when infection rate remains below 5% over a 14-day average. And Governor Cuomo has indicated that if the regional rate, so that's where we're in the mid-Hudson region, if everybody remembers back to the different phases when New York pause started, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So in the mid-Hudson region, if the rate increases to 9%, then all schools within the region will be closed by the governor. So anyone who was in contact with a COVID positive case, based upon the contact tracing measures, really should remain at home. Contact tracing, like I said, will be led by the Westchester County Department of Health, and the school district will do its best to assist them with their work. Quarantine periods for people in contact with a person with a positive test could last 14 days.
Another question in the same field. I was actually looking at the response sheet. This was actually being typed in, seconds ago as we're doing this live. Should teachers, staff, and students get tested at least a few days before entering the building to help identify those who are asymptomatic before they expose others and cause possible closures?
Yeah, and this was something that Dr. Abramson addressed early on as well, is that we're still learning how this works. We're still, developing testing measures in our country. The school district will be following the guidance that was released by the New York State Education Department, and will be cooperating with the Westchester County Department of Health as it relates to all testing and contact tracing efforts. According to their guidance, schools are not asking community to get tests prior to attending school. We're not asking for antibody tests, and that is directly from the New York State Education Department guidance, and also in conjunction with other governing bodies that have been releasing similar things, saying that the capacity just does not exist at this time.
Mr. Goldman, last question to close out this category for you, but I may ask you to come back. That means I will ask you to come back, but
I'll be here.
Be ready for it. Where will temperature checks? Will temperature checks be done outside of the building when they come in?
So one of the things to remember is that we will have that health attestation application in place. And one of the questions will be directly to parents asking about the student's temperature. So we will do random temperature checks inside the school at various points of time throughout the day. But in order for a student to enter the school building, the parent has to affirm that the child does not have a fever each morning. So before you come in, make sure that you answer that question. And then just as a safeguard, we will be doing random checks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goldman. We're going to move on to questions that were related to lunch. Dr. Charles, the first question that we received also earlier today, how will lunch run this year? How will it look? Where will students eat lunch? I know you addressed that a little bit in the video that we shot, but that was days ago.
Yeah, so, we're still trying to nail down the logistics of exactly how we're going to do it. Part of that is Mr. Greenwald and I going through the building and doing, making sure we have enough space for all of the students that are going to be at lunch at the same time. So our plan is that we're going to have lunch waves, where the first wave of lunch will be 9th and 10th graders, and they'll eat in the commons, the middle school cafeteria. Outside the middle school cafeteria, we have some tables out there, or in front of the school, we have some benches that students can sit at. As long as they're maintaining their social distance, they can sit in all of those spaces. And then during that time, while the 9th and 10th graders are eating, the 11th and 12th graders can stay in the room that they were just in from that classroom, or they can go see a teacher for extra help. And then once that first wave is over, the classes will flip. So the 9th and 10th graders will go into a classroom or go see their teachers, and the 11th and 12th graders will be able to eat lunch outside or in the commons in the middle school cafeteria.
Good. You got my second question before I even asked it, so well done.
Oh, I'm like, you asked the second question?
Well, no, it was, you got it. Who is responsible for monitoring the kids during lunch? If kids do not practice social distancing, are there any consequences?
Yes, so we will have school monitors, and we also have our security team that will help us monitor lunches. And if students aren't maintaining their social distance, if they're not being appropriate with any of these health and safety measures, then they are referred to myself or you, and we will address it. There will be consequences, and some of those consequences may be removal from that environment, where students may not be able to sit with their peers at that time. They might have to have lunch in a separate place in order to make sure that they're being safe, or we have to call their parents and have them sent home. There's lots of consequences that we can have. From what I've met of all the students that I've met so far in Blind Brook and all the teachers and families that I've met, there are wonderful people, and I'm sure if we just remind someone, say, oh, by the way, don't forget, put your mask on, or don't forget, keep your social distance, I am sure 99.9% of the kids and staff will say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, and not realize it. This is something we have to get used to. We have to get used to navigating these spaces together, and how do we do that in a healthy way? is something that we have to get some muscle memory with it. And so it'll just take a little bit of time. So I think as long as we approach it with that kind of thought that we have to kind of give people time to learn this process, but at the same time, making sure that we're reinforcing those healthy habits.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. Next question has to do with PE classes and the athletic program. So, Mr. Goldman, I'm going to ask you to come back, and if you could take this first one, can you please provide a brief update on the status of the school athletic program?
Sure. I know earlier in the presentation on the video, I announced that it was as of Sunday when I recorded it. So happy news is that there was an update just yesterday. As of right now, all fall sports are scheduled to start on September 21st. However, it is pending Governor Cuomo's approval. So yesterday during the governor's press conference, he announced that an update regarding the state's interscholastic athletic program will be released next week. So athletic registration, which was scheduled to open this coming Monday, it's actually going to be delayed until after the governor makes his announcement. So as soon as the governor makes his update, I'll make sure to send a blast email out through the school messenger system. And I will also update the athletics website as soon as possible.
Thank you. And last question for you, Mr. Goldman. How will PE classes be handled?
Sure. So in-person PE classes, we're going to attempt to hold as many of those classes outdoors as often as possible. So all PE classes will be following the guidance released by the CDC, the New York State Department of Health, and the New York State Education Department. And in that guidance, it says that in-person classes will require 12 feet of social distance while participating in activities that require aerobic or heavy breathing. Also, if there is any individual equipment that's being used, we will make sure to sanitize it after each use.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. We're moving to another category, and now we have questions that came in smaller groups, but still smaller categories. So we'll jump really kind of almost a question per category. Bathrooms. Dr. Charles, how will bathrooms be made safer, crowd control, reducing things touched, et cetera?
So as Mr. Goldman mentioned in the opening video, we are going to restrict the number of stalls, the number of sinks that we have access to in the bathroom, so that'll automatically keep things reduced. We'll also have monitors and staff that will make sure that students are not congregating in the bathrooms, and that we're using almost like a one in, one out type model.
Okay. We're jumping to another category. I don't know how I managed to juxtapose bathrooms into the next category, but don't read into it in any way. The next question is assessments. Can you please explain when tests will occur?
So originally in the plan, we had indicated that there'll be no summative tests on in-school days. In talking with the teachers, we needed some more flexibility with that because of the fact that the kids are going to be in different cohorts on different days and different groups learning at different times. We're going to have some students, they'll be able to take different types of assessments. So they may be having traditional assessments, but we also are going to look at all different types of assessments that we can do. So they can occur at any time. They could be in school, out of school, online, whole group, small group presentations. We're going to explore all the different ways we can assess students and make sure that whatever methods that we're choosing, that the assessments are valid, reliable, and are an accurate depiction of how students are progressing.
Okay. Question here. If quarterly and final grades will be based less on test results, will grading protocol be revised in advance of the start of the school year?
We're not changing our quarterly distribution of how final grades are determined. What we're hoping is that whatever assessments that we work through in each department and with the teachers, that those assessments are really a reflection of how the students are progressing in the class with their knowledge of content, in addition to their progression throughout the year on their content knowledge.
Okay. Next set of questions, we're in a category where we got quite a bit of recurrence from parents, and I'm calling this category building flow and use of space. And the first question is, what outdoor options are being explored for when classes are in person?
We're exploring a lot of outdoor options. So as Mr. Goldman said, we're going to have PE class outdoors. I had a meeting with the teachers today to discuss, having other classes outdoors. What we want to try to do is identify spaces that are outside that teachers can sign up their classes for, so that we can get them out there. I'm working with the PTA in order to secure maybe some equipment so that way we can go outside and do that in a safe, practical way. So we are trying to explore as much. It's not that the campus is, we don't have an expansive campus. We don't have too much rolling greens, but we do have space, and we're going to try to use as much of that space as we can.
Another question in the same category: will larger spaces be utilized as classrooms?
As much as we can. So Mr. Greenwald and I are going to we go through the class list. We look at the class sizes that we have. We look at the classrooms that we have, and we will be putting classes in the biggest classes that we can.
I noticed that a good number of the questions that we had here were answered. Non-category, sort of a random question that came up. Actually, let me jump and mix this up. Mr. Berg, calling Mr. Berg. Maybe not. All right, we can come back to him.
We'll see if we can get him. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Mr. Berg.
We got him.
Thank you. I wanted to get you in here. We had a special ed related question, and the question was, how will 504 plans be effectuated properly in a remote environment? You're not muted, but we can't hear you. And we're gonna, you know what? Well,
I can answer it for now, and maybe Mr. Berg,
sure.
if you want to maybe try to come out and come back in.
Yeah, we could do that, and if we'll come back to him, and I think I have an answer as well if we need. Coming back to Mr. Berg, you want to try again? Okay. Folks, say goodbye to Mr. Berg. He's not going to be working in the district much longer. All right, we'll come back. Mr. Berg, don't worry about it. We'll get it taken care of. Dr. Charles, will students be given access to the school prior to 9/21 in order to drop off, books, get familiar with the location, drop off meds, things, understand the hallway directions, things of that nature?
Well, I had mentioned earlier that we will have pickup of school supplies, but we also will coordinate with the nursing staff to get drop off of medication. If someone has a particular concern about their child, reach out to my office and we'll see if we can work something out. As we approach school, and once we've solidified our unidirectional flows of the building, we'll send out maps to each of the families, so if kids wanted to review them before they come in, to give with their schedules. So that way they can look at the schedules, they can look at the map, and they can kind of figure everything out together. And again, give us a call, shoot us an email, and if you have any other concerns, we can address them.
All right, we're winding down here, getting towards the end. There was another question in this sort of random category about, will juniors be allowed to park on campus in an effort to reduce density on buses?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I got
Sure,
distracted.
it was a question, will juniors be allowed to park on campus in an effort to reduce density on buses?
No, we're gonna keep seniors driving on campus because if we want to increase to a full where everybody's in school, we want to keep our same parking plan and everything together. So adding more students into that is not going to be a long-lasting solution. So we're only going to maintain the seniors driving on campus, and we're going to try to work out so that way seniors will hopefully pair with the cohorts, a Monday, Tuesday cohort student with a Thursday, Friday cohort student. We're going to try to work it out so that way we can get all of them parked on campus.
Thank you. And this is the last question. I noticed that Mr. Berg just sent me an answer to the question, but Mr. Berg, if you want to try one more time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
The question, just to reiterate, the question was, how will 504 plans be effectuated properly in a remote environment?
Well, good evening, Dr. Charles and Mr. Greenwald. Nice to see you both. In terms of special education and 504 accommodation plans, as always, we will be following New York State guidance. And related to the specific question, New York State guidance states that schools must ensure access to accommodations, modifications, supplementary aids and services, and technology that support students with disabilities. And that happens both in the school building as well as in a remote environment. So like in-person instruction, all teachers will have confidential access to students' 504 plans and will know a student's physical or mental impairment, the major life activity that's being impacted, as well as the substantial limitation, and as well as any accommodations necessary to allow that student to access the general education classroom. As always, if there are questions or concerns related to your child's individual situation, you can reach out first to your child's teacher. You could then also reach out to your child's guidance counselor, who serves as your child's 504 case manager, or you could reach out to the assistant director, Jennifer Herlihy, or me, and we'd be happy to address any issues that come up. And through trying to address those issues, even in a virtual environment, we can address issues through conversation, emails, video conferencing, or we can also schedule formal program review meetings. The CSE has been meeting since March, that we basically have continued, or the CSE or the 504 committee has been meeting. So really we're operating under the same parameters and some adjusted parameters. The New York State has given us some areas where we in terms of special education services, where we've been providing equitable services to those on an IEP. But in terms of 504 accommodations, we still do have that obligation, take it very seriously, to support students and provide them the accommodations that they would need to access the general education.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. We appreciate it. Sort of concludes the live Q&A portion. We have done our best to,
Mark,
I'll turn it over to you, but we've done our best to kind of do what we did in the pre-formatted video distortion and also get everything that came to us in the last 72 hours. I'll let Dr. Charles take it.
If that's okay. I'm just looking right now, and a few came in that I think are quick that we might be able to get to. What do students do during free periods? So during free periods, we encourage students to go to the commons, because we'll have desks. We're hopefully going to have desks in there so that'll be socially distant and students can work in there. If they have the first time slot free, they can come in late with a note from their family. Are there touchless hand sanitizers in the building? Yes. School will start on September 8th, remote. On September 21st, we start with the hybrid. If there's no singing or music playing in chorus, why are the setups 12 feet away? So we're suggesting, we have 6 feet, we're suggesting minimal or no singing. We're gonna use the guidance from the state. It's 12 feet if someone is singing, which I don't know if we are able to do in our buildings or our spaces. So that is why we have to maintain the 6 feet. Have we considered eliminating the lunch period? By law, we have to provide students with lunch. So we are not going to eliminate a lunch period for the students. Where will students put their winter coats, which can be quite large and cumbersome? Hopefully by then, maybe we can start using lockers. If not, they're going to have to put them in their backpacks or carry them around with them. If we can come up with another solution, then we will come up with a swifter solution. Are teachers planning to work remotely even though students are physically present? That is something that I think Dr. Brimstein would be definitely able to explain. But part of the job of a teacher is to be present in the classroom. So we may be able to have teachers provide a lesson or provide support, but we still would need someone to be present in the classroom with the students. So it's not as straightforward or linear as a normal answer would be. Let's see, both middle school and high school both have the same first day of remote learning and same first day of in-school. There's another one.
The last
How will kids be prepared for the regions if testing in school may be following a modified approach? So what we do in school is we use the state standards and we guide ourselves towards preparing to those state standards and preparing for the Regents exam. We received word today that the Regents exams have tentative dates that have been announced. I shared that with the teachers today, and we are already starting to talk about how do we address the standards and how are we going to get to all those standards by the time the Regents exam comes. We do prioritize standards, like any time you always address the standards that are most essential first. And there's always some supplemental standards that are there that sometimes show up in an exam, sometimes don't. But we could also look at, as we get closer to the Regents exam, running Regents exam preparation courses or supplemental supports for students that do have Regents exams. There was one question, will students on a Thursday, Friday be exposed to the cleaning chemicals that might be in the air from the deep cleaning? Well, every day they're going to be doing cleaning. So we do have the air filtration system, so any chemicals that we use for cleaning will be filtered through the filtration system. And so it'll be no different from a kid on Thursday, Friday than a kid on Monday, Tuesday with regards to being exposed to the cleansing materials that we have. Everyone, they're going to be used all week through all the classrooms. I tried to bang a whole bunch out. Did I get?
No, that's we are about as live can be right now. Those questions were literally just being typed in. So
yeah, that was it.
Dr. Brimstein, I see you popped in. Would you care to?
Yes. Thank you so much. For starters, I'll circle back to that one question that Dr. Churls was running through, but I didn't want to break her flow. She was on a real on rhythm there, but.
There's a whole bunch of little ones. I wanted to make sure that we addressed them. I know a lot of people probably were waiting for their questions. So.
Yes, I got that sense. You were flying through it. It was wonderful. And listen, I got to tell you, I'm so pleased to be part of this team and watching in just a few weeks I've already been here, how much we're growing together as a team. You two were entertaining. I didn't jump in because I was quite frankly amused.
It's a free show. Who knew they got a free show on a Thursday night?
Yeah, it was better than talk radio. It was very entertaining and very factual, and I thought you were thorough, and I just thought it was fantastic. But I will also say that you have prospered from watching all of your colleagues the last few days, and you've taken all the lessons and put them into yours. So we're a learning team and a team of.
I'm a lifelong learner.
That's right, and that's what educational leaders should be. So that's fantastic. I did want to just mention on the comment about working with faculty and staff who may have medical conditions that we're evaluating right now through the American with Disability Act. Appropriate accommodations will be planned. And if that in a situation requires a teacher to teach from home, we certainly will make sure that the room that they are not teaching from because they're teaching from home would also be staffed in a way so there is appropriate supervision. But obviously our goal is to make sure that everyone's physical needs are being met, as well as just, again, like these informational sessions, that your knowledge, you're comfortable with what we're doing. But again, I think this was a really, it was a fun night. And I was actually, good thing my mic was off because I was laughing a few times. Mr. Greenwald, your sense of humor is so dry.
It's so good.
You two are a good compliment for each other. So thank you very much to both of you. Phenomenal. Thanks for all the parents that were listening. And I'll let you have closing words.
Okay.
Before they jump in, I know Dr. Brimstein, you've gotten a few emails today about access to this week's materials. And if you go to the Bruno M. Ponterio Rich Street website, you'll see the video from Tuesday evening. If you go to the middle school website, you'll see the one from yesterday. And hopefully at some point tomorrow on the high school page, you'll see a recording of this evening.
So I wanted to just take a moment and thank all the families that have logged in and watched tonight. I know it's a long night to then at 6:30 sit on a hour and a half plus video conference after so many of us sit on video conferences all day. So I really appreciate you joining us tonight. I appreciate all of you that have reached out with questions. I tried to address as many as we could between the videos and the online videos and the live videos. And if there's a question that you still have nagging that you really want answered, email me and we will answer it. If something comes up tomorrow that you just thought of, email us and we'll answer it. We're here to help you feel comfortable through this process. As Mr. Greenwald said, we did have 20 students come in this morning. It was so great to see students in a school. Of course, wearing masks, socially distant, and new to the high school. But it was just great having kids around again and being back and getting that feeling of getting back to school, which we're very excited about. And so we're looking forward to the school year. Thank you all for welcoming me so warmly to the Blind Brook Rye community. It has been a pleasure couple of weeks so far, and I look forward to the rest of the year. So with that being said, have a good evening. Thank you to my co-host, Mr. Mark Greenwald. And
We're here to help,
thank you
folks.
to everyone else who pitched in and helped us out tonight. Really appreciate your knowledge base and your insight and feedback. So have a good evening, everybody.